Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at one of the turf stakes events on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Race 10 is the Kitten's Joy for the 3-year-olds, going the mile and a 16th distance on the turf. And Mike, 8 runners signed on for this one, but contention runs pretty deep for an 8-horse field. I found positive aspects to just about every runner in this field. I would imagine that the 2 horses that vie for favoritism are the number 6 Test Score and the number 8 Me Bago, both horses that have shown some pretty strong form in stakes company. But you can make cases for a lot of runners in this field.
Yeah, I think that is what makes the race very interesting, because you do have, a couple of horses that have already proven their quality in stakes competition, and that's going to make them, it's going to draw a lot of attention their way. It's going to make them really tough in here. But some of these lightly raised horses, there are a bunch of them coming off of maiden wins. There appears to be some other talent in this field.
Let's check out the Timeform US pace projector to see how these horses could sort themselves out heading into that clubhouse turn. And there does appear to be plenty of speed in this race, so I'm not surprised to see the fast pace flag showing up in Timeform US for this race, particularly because Mark Cassie's got 2 horses that look like they kind of need the lead to have their best chance. So it's going to be interesting to see, well, if he runs both of them without a scratch and what the tactics are if the number 5 Walking in Memphis and the number 8 Me Bago both participate in this race, because both horses, Walking in Memphis, just 1 start so far, but Me Bago in his recent starts doing their best running on the lead. And then you throw in the number 2, Charlie's to Blame, into the mix, who also broke his maiden in gate to wire fashion last time. And I won't be surprised when they're moving at an honest clip up front.
Yeah, I thought there was a chance the pace was at least solid in here too. I'll be honest with you, I don't really know which horse I thought was necessarily going to get the aggressive ride and go to the front. Maybe it'll be Walking in Memphis. Just because he still looked like he had a lot of learning to do, David, in that career debut. I'm not sure that they want to get too handsy with this horse, but we'll see if he's just taken a step forward off of that debut, which was actually a pretty good performance.
Let's go through this field in post position order, beginning with the number 1, Enter the Dragon. And this horse is probably going to be the biggest price of anybody in this field, Mike, but it's not like he's totally overmatched against these horses. If you just watch his last race at Tampa Bay Downs, which you can do using your formulator or Timeform US past performances for this race, I mean, he had some real traffic trouble coming to the top of the stretch, which was just stuck behind horses. The jockey had nowhere to go. He had to alter course a couple times, ultimately going all the way down to the inside. And once this horse found daylight, he just burst through and ran away from that field pretty impressively. The problem is he wasn't really beating that much on that occasion. I will say they took the blinkers off for the first time, and he was much more rateable than he had been in any of his prior races where he had gotten really rank racing forwardly in his starts 2 and 3 back. So maybe he's just a different horse without the blinkers.
Clearly coming off the best performance of his career, that's for sure. So, I guess if you want to step him back up in the stakes company, you might as well do it off of a performance like that and just see if he can be more competitive this time. He was good last time, David, in the pulpit too bad. You mentioned the problems that they had rating this horse. I mean, they had to take such a huge hold of this horse. It almost seemed like they were dying to stay away from Me Bago on the lead in there and turned that horse loose, and all they could do was chase him after that.
Number 2, Charlie's to Blame, is just coming off a maiden victory, stepping up into stakes company, but it was a pretty impressive maiden win. And we'll take a look at the stretch run of that race at Del Mar. And he's actually facing some pretty decent horses for a maiden race on this occasion. The runner-up, Muscled, who looked like he was going to win the race at the top of the stretch before Charlie's to Blame just said, "Nobody is passing me," and he ran away from that field. Well, Muscled came back to finish second against maiden company again, but was beaten by a horse, Scipio, who had previously placed in graded stakes company. And the 3rd place finisher came back with an 84 buyer winning his next start, albeit on the dirt. So Charlie's to Blame has kept some pretty good company. Mike, it is not the easiest thing to set a legitimate pace and wire a field on the turf at Del Mar. Despite the short stretch, those are races that tend to fall apart. And this horse just ran away from that field. He's got to do it on a different coast, shipping across the country for trainer Peter Urton. But I really like what I saw from this horse last time, and I think he fits against these runners.
I agree. He was really, really impressive. I don't know if he's going to be able to make the lead in this race, David, and I don't know that it matters. But this horse seems like he's got some real talent, even at his turf debut too. Like, I know it was a sprint. He didn't make the lead in there. He had no problem with it. He was pretty comfortable. He had a shot at that race. He was dueling between through the stretch, and he wasn't quite good enough. But that was a good performance, and he really improved last time.
The number 3, Maui Strong, chased home Mibago last time, though that was on the synthetic track in the Dania Beach. That was a race that got rained off the turf. In Maui Strong's most recent turf race, he broke his maiden in his third attempt at Churchill Downs, 2 back, and I thought it was a pretty impressive performance. He broke from the far outside post in a field of 12, got hung a little wide around both turns, but once he got asked for his best, he really kicked for home in the final eighth of a mile. Got to run faster than that to beat a group like this, but if he gets some pace to close into, maybe he is running on late at a price.
Really liked his maiden win 2 starts back. I thought that was a real step in the right direction for this horse, and I thought it was a visually impressive performance there. And to me, the Dania Beach, to me, first of all, Mibago just controlled that pace, and the runner-up Hammered is actually a pretty good horse as well. And I just felt like when I watched it back, and obviously anybody can go pull the replay and draw your own conclusions. To me, Maui Strong looked like a horse who did not care for that synthetic surface. I think he's going to be way better switching back to the grass. He's going to be a price in this race, and I'm using this horse.
The number 4 is Tiz Dashing, who really has done little wrong in 2 starts so far, winning on debut at Aqueduct, and then in this race that we'll take a look at, just barely getting defeated when he stepped up against Stakes Company and stretched out to the 2 turns in the Awad Stakes at Aqueduct in the middle of October. He's gotten an education, to say the least, in both starts, Mike, because they put this horse in traffic. He's come through professionally, has battled horses down to the wire while racing inside of rivals. He has definitely gotten a world of experience for his first couple of starts. So I really am not concerned about whatever kind of trip he's going to work out in this race. I do think he's got more tactical speed than he's shown in either race so far, but with speed drawn to his outside, maybe it's good that they know that they can rate him once again.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, if that pace projector is close to right, it's going to be good for this horse. Because even in the Awad last time, he was under a huge pull in that race, trying to sit behind horses. He might not have to do that here if this pace gets away from him a little bit more. I don't know, man. I really liked his debut sprinting, even though he didn't look like a sprinter. He moved forward last time against a good field. And I'm not so sure that he isn't necessarily the most talented horse in this race when all's said and done, David. This horse can run, and he's a major contender again.
The 5, Walking in Memphis, is one of 3 Mark Casse trainees in this race, just coming out of a debut victory at Gulfstream Park, going this distance where he got to the front end, was able to set actually a pretty legitimate pace and hold off the closers at the end. Now, he was getting tired in the late stages and was kind of greenly shying away from the whip through the stretch, but he did hold it together enough to earn the victory. The bettors didn't know. They sent him off at 24-1 that day, so he was a bit of a surprise, but maybe that means that he still has upside. Mark Casse is certainly showing some confidence to step him right up into Stakes Company.
Yeah. We'll see, how much he can improve here, because he's going to have to do a few more things more correctly, and he's going to have to take a step forward as well. But there's not that much to knock about his debut. He wired the field, but it's not like he was walking in that race. I mean, he was loose. He wasn't taking pressure, but he wasn't going a super slow pace in that race. Yeah, he was really green through the stretch, just shifting in and out every time the whip came out on him. But he kept digging in there and got the job done. It feels like this horse, if he's grown up a little bit and learned his lessons from that race, maybe he takes a step forward in here and makes himself even more dangerous.
The number 6 is Test Score, who does feel like one of the horses to beat in this spot. He's really run well in just about every start of his career. Looked like he wanted to go longer on debut when he finished second sprinting, then faced Stakes Company and some pretty good horses in his second start. Mike, I thought he was much the best when he broke his maiden at Keeneland. That was not an easy trip for an inexperienced horse. Had to alter course multiple times, stuck in traffic, still came through to win that race when it didn't look like he was going to be able to get there. And then last time, we'll take a look at the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance out at Del Mar on Breeders' Cup weekend. He had a tough post this day, so I don't want to fault Manny Franco too much, because he did do a pretty good job into the clubhouse turn of getting this horse all the way over to the 3 path, where it looked like he briefly might get stuck out even wider, but he just never really was able to find a clear path at the angle to the inside to rally in the stretch, which I never love to see with a closer. Ultimately couldn't quite get there in the end, but still another good performance from this horse.
Yeah, it's tough beat for him last time at a good price. He ran really well in there. I saw all the same things you did in his prior races, in particular the maiden win at Keeneland, where he was a lot better than the neck margin of victory might lead some people to believe. This horse, he's really talented. I do think he's the horse to beat in here. We'll see what kind of trip he gets. He's going to need a trip in this race. If he gets a good one, though, I think he's going to be tough.
The number 7, Coco Cool, is a strange horse to analyze because it's kind of interesting that Irad Ortiz is landing on this one of the 3 Mark Casse horses. Maybe that means nothing at all, but he did earn a competitive 79 buyer in his last turf race, really his only turf race, when he broke his maiden up at Woodbine. That was just going the 6.5 furlong distance. Kind of a tale of 2 stories, though, Mike, when you look up his last 2 races in Formulator, because you look at the runbacks from that maiden win, and everyone's regressed out of that race. I think I averaged the top 5 runners. They came back and all ran an average of 15 points lower in their next start. But then you look at his last race at Turfway, and that's actually been a really strong race with the runbacks, with the runner-up babybacks coming back to win the Leonada Stakes in his next start.
Yeah, I thought this horse was maybe the toughest call in the race because there are things that I like about him, and then there are things that I don't like about him. His win on turf in his second career start there, I mean, the pace was really slow, and he just sort of sat there outside of a first-time starter long shot. He's just sitting there waiting to go at the top of the stretch. It looked like he was going to win by 10, and then he just kind of never gets away from them at the end of the race. He was fine in there. He also had Lasix on for that one. When he won last time, he ran pretty well in there too, but he got a perfect trip in that race, and I thought kind of took advantage. I don't know, man. Maybe he's good enough. I couldn't quite get there when I tried to talk myself into him.
Completing this field and completing that Mark Casse trio is the number 8, Mibago, a horse who actually did not run that badly behind Tescore in the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, if we can go 3 starts back for him. I mean, he was really ranked through the early stages of that race, refused to settle, and was only beaten a couple lengths by Tescore in the end, despite arguably getting a tougher trip than that one. His last couple races, though, Mike, everything went right for him. And we'll take a look at the replay of his most recent start when he was reined off the turf in the Dania Beach. Didn't matter to him. He handled the synthetic just fine, got to control the pace on the front end just the way he did in the Pulpit 2-back, setting fractions that are very comfortable for him. And he was able to draw away in the end. Just feels like this time the trip is not going to be available to him, Mike.
Yeah, that's one of the things I didn't like about him. He's fine in here, and listen, probably not that surprising, at least in retrospect, that he handled the all weather. He's good on dirt, he's good on turf, and he's good on the all weather. So he's one of those versatile horses. At first I didn't love his Pulpit 2 starts back just because he was so loose on the lead, but he's another one. It's not like he was walking, David. I mean, he was moving right along on that lead, opened up on that field up the backstretch, and then just sort of never let them get involved there. I'm not sure that I love that field, but, I'll give him the credit that he deserves for winning that race. I hear what you're saying about the Del Mar race, too. Really ranked early and in some traffic. I thought after that, Santana did everything right. He had this horse in a perfect position up the backstretch, in a perfect position around the second turn, and he just, wasn't quite good enough in the stretch, but he still ran pretty well there.
Let's throw up our picks for this Kitten's Joy. And, well, Mike, we got the same 4 numbers up there, just sorted in a different order. You're going to put the number 6 Tescore on top, who I agree. He's run well every time.
I thought that there were plenty of alternatives in here, David, especially if Tescore is going to be one of the really short prices in here. But I ultimately decided not to take a shot against him. I think he's good. And if he gets the right trip in here, I expect him to be really tough in here. If I picked against him, it was going to be with Maui Strong. And I think that horse will be a price, so I could still wind up betting that horse.
And I was just really taken with the maiden victory of the number 2, Charlie's to Blame. He was so impressive in that race out in California. We'll see how that form translates here and what kind of trip he's going to work out. But I do think just from a raw ability standpoint, he's going to stack up well with these horses. So 2, 4, 6, 3 for me and 6, 3, 4, 2 for Mike in the Kitten's Joy, race 10 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.